Hello everyone and welcome to the Beard Talks Metal. In this video I'm going to be talking about Mastodon. So they surprised everybody by releasing a new track on Friday called Sultan's Curse. It sort of came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody was expecting a release of a single that quickly. I know there had been some news to say that they were at least recording and they'd finished their album. But the new record is called Emperor of Sand and it's due to be released on the 31st of March. So we've not got too long to wait for that. The good thing is I've listened to the track a couple of times now and I'm pleased to say it's just a standard Mastodon track, I suppose. You've got all the right bits and pieces in there, your Thin Lizzy harmonies, your drum fills from Brandela, and that kind of three-prong vocal attack from Troy, Brent, and Bran. I believe it's produced by the guy that produced Crack the Sky. So there's a bit of a heavier sound than maybe what we've been used to on The Hunter and once more Around the Sun. So yeah, they've gone back to their old logo as well on the artwork. So there's I'm holding out that this is potentially a bit of a return possibly to their to kind of slightly heavier, more aggressive sound that everybody's into. So I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to go through some of the Mastodon pieces I have in my collection. So I first heard of Mastodon when I used to get the Relapse magazine called Resound, and there was a bit of news in there to say that there was going to be a new band featuring members of Today Is a Day. Now, being a big Today Is a Day fan, I was really excited to hear about this and was really looking forward to what was going to come about. So Bran and Brent played on, sorry, no, Bran and Bill played on the Today's a Day record, In the Eyes of God, which I've got here on CD. Got two copies of this because that's the sort of person I am. Original version and the remastered version now. So there's a lot of that Today Is a Day sound sort of came across into Mastodon quite early on. So you know, when I first heard the EP, which was Life's Blood, obviously I was really into it, being such a big Today's a Day fan. There is also a connection with a band called Lethargy, and the Lethargy compilation that basically compiles all of their recordings is really expensive to get hold of. It's been on my want list for a really long time. But I just can't justify spending, getting on for 40 quid now just to add a couple of CDs into my collection. So yeah, so that's just a very quick kind of history of the makeup of Mastodon. So as I say, the first release they did was Life's Blood, and that was released on Relapse Records. First came out in a CD version, and then this was released a few years later on, which is the 7-inch version of that. And then obviously everybody's favorite, I suppose, Mastodon record is Remission. So this contains essentially all of their ultimate classics. Everybody who's into metal, I suppose, these days would know March of the Fire Ants, and Crusher Destroyer, which are the first two opening tracks of the Mastodon record. And I think between Life's Blood and Remission, their sound had progressed immensely, and we just knew that this band was just going to blow up and be something massive. Back then, their vocals were more or less indecipherable between the three of them. I think it was more back then it was Bill, Bran and Troy who used to do vocals. Bran didn't really do vocals at that point as far as I can remember, but it was a lot harsher, it was a lot more aggressive, a lot more chuggy, ultimately just a lot more metal, a lot more obviously metal rather than the kind of progressive sound that they've sort of gone through over the years. So Remission also got remastered and repressed a few years later on CD, but I still have both copies of those. This is the original copy, and this one here is the remastered version. So a few years later they came out with Leviathan, and this was, I think this is when I first got to see Mastodon live. I got to see them at the Camden Underworld, I think on the Leviathan tour, and it was good to see them in such a small venue at that time. I guess Mastodon at that time were more into the kind of, they fitted more into the underground and the extreme scene. So, you know, you used to get quite a lot of cred points, I suppose, if you're walking around in a Mastodon shirt. And yeah, as they progressed over the years, they've just got more and more popular, really. So between Leviathan and Blood Mountain, they came off of Relapse Records, I think, and signed on to Warner Brothers, one of the Warner labels, which was Reprise, which is what they're currently on now. It was a bit of a different sound between Leviathan and Blood Mountain. This is really where they started to sort of exercise their prog chops, I suppose. Their tracks began to be a bit more, start to be a bit more drawn out and meandering, and, you know, more kind of progressive. And Brand's drumming just got more and more technical as time went on. He's just an absolutely incredible drummer. I think Blood Mountain has got a guest spot from somebody from Queens of the Stone Age. I seem to remember. I must admit, this is probably the album of theirs that I listen to least, but I know it's one that for a lot of people is actually their most popular. But being a kind of, you know, death metal head and extreme into my extreme stuff, I wasn't disappointed with it, but it certainly, you know, it was different for me between listening to Leviathan and Remission and Life's Blood, which was, you know, incredibly heavy, and then moving over to Blood Mountain, which kind of had that more progressive sound. Now, for me, my favourite Mastodon album, I think, has got to be Crack the Sky. This was really kind of the amount of progression they had, again, between Blood Mountain and Crack the Sky was immense. This is, I believe, it's quite a difficult album for them to write. I think there was possibly something. Brand's sister was going through some kind of illness at the time, and it was quite a personal record. I remember all that kind of conversation back then. Now I've got a really nice copy of this Crack the Sky. It opens up into this kind of concertina kind of viewing thing. It's really cool, and you kind of view it through there, and it kind of creates this kind of tunnel scene. So yeah, this was it wasn't too expensive at the time. It was quite limited edition and quite hard to get hold of. But I think it's worth, you know, certainly more than I paid for it now. It came with a really nice like lithograph print as well of the Crack the Sky album cover, signed as well, which was nice. So yeah, I've got that put away somewhere. I need to get it framed. And this is where Brand's vocals came out to the fore, really. Awesome melodic, you know, clean singing from Brand, and, you know, holding that all together and being able to drum like he does as well is just something else. So yeah, so I listened to this not too long ago. It's still an incredible album, and I'd say is probably my favourite Mastodon album so far. So next was The Hunter. Now, again, although it's in my collection, I don't really listen to it that much. It's not really one that I pull out that often. to be honest with you, I can't even remember most of the tracks on it. It was, for me, it was just quite forgettable. I didn't really rate it. I think Curl of the Burl is the one that sort of sticks in my head. But yeah, I think I'm going to need to kind of revisit this soon, because it just sits in my collection gathering dust. So their final album, or their most recent album, was Once More Around the Sun, and yeah, so have this on vinyl. I didn't bother getting a CD version of this. And again, this is one that I don't really know too much about. I don't really listen to it. But being a bit of completist, I had to pick it up. I remember the single that came out, which I think was the Motherlode. And when I heard it, I was like, holy moly, this is old school Mastodon, nice and chuggy, and they seem to have the kind of the extremities back. But it turns out that it wasn't to be. The album wasn't actually what I thought it was going to be. So I think, yeah, between The Hunter and Once More Around the Sun, I've not really paid that much attention to it. I must admit, for me, they have a bit of a 50% pass rate in what they've released. I love Leviathan, I love Remission, I love Crack the Sky, but Blood Mountain, The Hunter, and Once More Around the Sun, I can kind of take it or leave it at the moment. So I got a couple of really nice pieces of Mastodon in my collection as well. So I've got the double LP of Crack the Sky, and this is a really nice copy. Super heavy gauge, super heavy kind of press. So this came with Crack the Sky, like poster print type thing, which has the score, musical arrangements of divinations on there as well. I don't know what color this is. Yeah, so I just got the standard black, like heavy gauge. But yeah, it sounds really nice. It's just a great record to have on vinyl. And so this is, I think, one of the first Mastodon sort of official releases. This is on Reptilian Records. Has the Bill, Brent, Brian and Troy lineup. Obviously, if you've listened to Call of the Mastodon, which I have, I'll go through that in a minute. That contains their kind of some of their earlier tracks, which actually had a different vocalist on. I don't recall what his name is, but there's kind of a history of the band on a DVD that I've got called The Workhorse Chronicles, and it kind of goes through the old vocalist and their kind of the origin stories, I suppose, of Mastodon. So yeah, so that's got 3 tracks on there. I think it was actually part of a series with of picture discs. There's a Pig Destroyer one, which I have, and Swarm of the Lotus as well. I think there's a 4th piece to it, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, I've got the Pig Destroyer one and Swarm of the Lotus as well, so I'm sure you'll see them at some point. I also have this nice picture disc here. This was their Thin Lizzy cover of the Emerald, and it's backed with American Heritage. So Mastodon did kind of, although at first they were sort of a Today is a Day influenced offshoot, Mastodon themselves then kind of really built up a scene around their sound. And there's quite a few bands that come out of that kind of that sound, Baroness being the obvious one. American Heritage were very much in that kind of ilk as well. They've done a couple of good records, but I must admit I don't really listen to them too much. But this 7-inch is a nice thing to have. It's a nice kind of picture disc on there, and yeah, the American Heritage one on the back is quite cool. So I have got quite a nice Crystal Skull 7-inch. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's just a really nice kind of centerpiece on there. It's kind of embossed centerpiece, which is really nice. So yeah, I like that. I don't really listen to it, but as I say, being a bit of a collector, it's obvious why it's in my collection. So there were some kind of, what happened when they signed to Warner and to Reprise. Obviously, you get into the realms of just kind of having, crappy old, like, thin sleeve kind of CD singles, the kind that we used to pick up in HMV for 99p and stuff like that. So got a couple of those as well. But this 7-inch is quite nice because it's got a Paul Romano poster in there as well. So yeah, so they've obviously released quite a few nice pieces over the years. So this is Call of the Mastodon, which is what I was referring to earlier. So this is just the collection, I suppose, of all of their original kind of pre-relapse recordings. So yeah, there's a couple of really good tracks on here actually that I love. I can't remember what their names are off the top of my head, but yeah, it's a good piece. This nice and heavy. And then so my last piece is what I call a mother load, basically. Oh no, just remembered I've got something else, but this is the Mastodon vinyl box set. So this was released on Relapse Records, and it was very expensive, to say the least. But what it does, if you just bear with me, what it does is it collects all of their albums on vinyl, all their Relapse albums, it's got to be said. So it starts with Life's Blood, and then we've got Remission, it's on double LP. There's the Mastodon live tracks from the Contaminated DVD, so that's on there as well. Yeah, goes right through to Leviathan, I think, and in there we get a nice Mastodon, I forget what they're called, slip mat thing that goes on your record player. Nice Mastodon patch there, which obviously I've not used, and some Mastodon spit stickers. And the last piece, if you just bear with me, is a Remission vinyl box set. Right, so I'm back. So yeah, so this is the last piece, and this came out I think on the 10th anniversary of Remission. So I think that would have been 2012. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that was released on 2002. Again, got a nice little Remission slip mat in there as well. And then we got some different artwork. So this is the insert, which has got some really nice artwork on there. There's John Merrick. And then we've got the album itself on double LP. So yeah, so that's another nice piece in my collection. Mastodon are actually really collectible. There's goodness knows how many versions of presses of every single one of their albums. You could get 20 colours of each one. I did actually sell a lot of my original Mastodon vinyl like an idiot, because I was young and reckless, and I needed to pay for a trip to America, so I sold some of my Mastodon albums. Things like, the original blue pressing of Remission, which is now £100 plus to buy on eBay and Discogs. I certainly didn't make that when I sold it. So yeah, keep hold of your records, kids. Don't do what I did and sell them off like a fool. So anyway, so that's my sort of piece on my Mastodon collection. Obviously, I'm going to be picking up Emperor of Sand on the 31st of March. There is quite a nice limited version of that which contains some colouring pencils, and a colouring in version of the album cover. So yeah, find Sultan's Curses on YouTube. There's quite a nice kind of animated video for that. And yeah, going to be looking forward to the record when it comes out. So I just want to say thanks to everybody that has been subscribing and commenting on my videos. Going to be trying to drop at least one video a week, maybe two, depending on time and if I've got something to talk about. But yeah, stay in touch, comment on the videos, and let me know what you want to see in the future. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you next time.